Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Sustainable Westchester webinar tonight. We're going to be talking about how to leverage rebates and incentives from the utility, the state, and the federal government in implementing green home energy upgrades. And tonight we're going to first hear from Assembly Member Amy Paulin, and then we're going to move into a review of some Sustainable Westchester programs. We've got Con Ed here to run through the money that they're putting out for people to do this work. And then we're going to hear from the contractors, Lexi from Healthy Home and Patrick from Dandelion. And we'll do that all in about 1 hour. And after that, we'll have some Q&A. So as the presentations are going, if you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat as it pops into your head. And then we'll come back to that at the end of the session. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Assemblywoman Amy Paulin.
Hi, everyone. First, the turnout is just heartwarming. It means that there are at least 104 people who are willing to take steps to address our ever-increasing problem of climate change and how that impacts our pocketbooks, really. So, way back when I first got involved in the community and was the president, believe it or not, of the Scarsdale League of Women Voters, there was a woman on the board who talked a lot about packaging and took us all on tours of the supermarket and showed us the what we should buy and what we should stay away from, so that we would steer the inevitable waste problem, or we'd solve the increasing waste problem that we have. So I think that, and I learned a great deal just from taking that tour with her. We gave lots of tours to lots of people, and I know it changed habits. So that's what this is really intending to do. This is intending to change habits and to learn what you can do in your own homes that could make the world a better place, your footprint smaller, and help to guide your neighbors and friends because of the excitement you'll have when your bills are lower. So without further ado, I just want to turn it over to those experts that could help educate all of us and help guide us in that journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you for acting as a co-host and helping to get the word out. And also big thanks to all of the great co-sponsors who helped to organize this event this evening. Okay, so a little bit about Sustainable Westchester. We are a municipally led shared service delivering climate solutions to governments, businesses, organizations, and people of Westchester County. So we are here as a resource for you. And also, as I mentioned, we are, well, maybe I didn't mention it yet, but we're a municipal membership organization, which means that Sustainable Westchester is answering to the municipalities, and pretty much every single municipality in Westchester County is a member of our organization, and that also includes membership from Westchester County itself. So probably a lot of people on the call are most familiar with Sustainable Westchester by being enrolled in our Westchester Power program, but we do have lots of other programs that are available, and we will discuss some of them tonight. But before I get into that, I just want to shout out the Mid-Hudson Regional Clean Energy Hub. So no matter where you are in New York State, NYSERDA offers basically a one-stop shop to finding out answers that people have. So maybe you're saying, how do I get solar panels? How do I upgrade my home with better insulation? No matter where you are in New York State, you can get answers through the Regional Clean Energy Hub. And in our area, the Mid-Hudson region, Sustainable Westchester is the provider in Westchester County. And we do that through a partnership with Cornell Cooperative Extension and also New Yorkers for Clean Power to cover our area. So no matter where you are, there is help. So before we get into the rebates and incentives that you could leverage for upgrades to your home, considering insulation, heat pumps, and air sealing, I just wanted to do shout outs for two programs that you could implement right away in your home. They're easy sign up programs that will save you money and reduce your carbon footprint. So we're going to just quickly talk about community solar and grid rewards. And the fun thing is we have a chat for this call. So if you're a participant in community solar or grid rewards, feel free to chat it in and share your experience that you have had with these programs. So community solar is for folks that cannot install solar on their own homes, or perhaps they live in an apartment or any situation. You have no solar, you can do community solar. For me, I live in an apartment in White Plains. I've been doing community solar for about 3-4 years now, and I've saved hundreds of dollars just by signing up and pretty much doing nothing after that. So, right now, we are prioritizing lower income customers to sign up. So I have on this slide here a chart of income levels. If you fall into any of these income limits, you can actually receive 20% of a discount on your electricity bill by signing up for community solar. If you are an average income earner or you don't fall into these categories, you still can participate in community solar, but you would have a 10% savings as compared to 20%. So a good takeaway here is if you're looking to save some money on your electricity bill each month, you can look to Sustainable Westchester's community solar. And the good thing is nothing really changes. You still remain with your utility company. You still keep your electricity supplier. There's no cost to join. You can cancel and leave at any time. And it's just a pretty easy thing to do. So let's keep going. And if there's questions about community solar, feel free to toss them on into the chat and we'll come back to them. So a second easy thing to do is grid rewards. And we are in grid rewards sign-up season right now. And it's been pretty fun lately. People are receiving their checks from participating last summer. Maybe just by a show of hands of people here in the Zoom, are there people that have participated in grid rewards before? Have you gotten paid recently? I see people are raising their hands. Jason, so feel free, put in the chat, how much money did you earn from grid rewards last summer? I would love to see those numbers coming on through. So grid rewards, what is it? I'm telling you, you can earn money, but what is it actually? It's a way to get paid for reducing your electricity bill at key times over the summer. So you may have gotten emails or text messages from Con Ed talking about their Smart Usage Rewards program. And that is the demand response program. Sustainable Westchester recommends grid rewards. You can sign up and then be ready to participate over the summer. The good thing is, even though most of the events are tied to participation in the summer, you can use the Grid Rewards app year-round on your phone. You connect it to your Con Ed account, and then you can kind of see predictions for the cost of your energy bill. You can look and see the carbon intensity of the electricity grid. So if you're a super energy user, you may check the app before you run the dishwasher, before you run the laundry machine, and see, oh, is the energy grid very carbon intense right now? And if it is, you could perhaps delay doing that energy using appliance. But lots of knowledge here, and there's power in knowledge. So the demand response app Grid Rewards is definitely easy and can help you become a better energy user. So we are in Grid Rewards sign-up season right now. Folks that download the app by the end of this month stand to make a little bit more money next summer. So I see questions in the chat. Barbara earned about 70-ish. Ooh, Liam, 106, pretty good. Bruce got 160 bucks, great. And last summer, we only had a few demand response events. So what happens is that when it's a really hot day, the utility knows, okay, we're gonna have hot weather, everyone's gonna be running their air conditioning. Let's put out an alert to our customers and let them know tomorrow we'll have a couple hours where we reduce our energy. So last summer we had just 2 or 3 events. This previous summer we had 5 or 6 grid rewards events. So we'll see what this summer holds. And if you are part of a community group that's looking to do something for Earth Day, we do recommend grid rewards. There can be a referral code produced if you wanted to bring this to your PTA or Rotary Club, whatever club you're a member of. You may consider saying, hey, let's advertise grid rewards to our members this season. We have enrolled a lot of municipal buildings, Ossining municipal buildings, Croton. So many municipalities are enrolled in the program. Hastings, as well as the New Rochelle School District. They enrolled last summer and they got a check for $24,000 for reducing their electricity usage last summer, just 2 times for a couple of hours. So there's money to be made, carbon reduction to be achieved, and pollution to be prevented by using grid rewards. So please do reach out if you have any questions or want to get more involved. Okay, EnergySmart homes, installation and heat pumps, the reason we're all here. So just a quick reminder that EnergySmart Homes, a program of Sustainable Westchester, we are here to help you not only do webinars like this, but we're also available for one-on-one support. You can call us, you can email us, we'll help you figure out which technology is best for your home. We'll talk about rebates and incentives, and we've got partner contractors to recommend and different ways that we can support you through your clean energy upgrades. So tonight you'll get a little story of all of the work that we do. Much of the promotion that we do is around these 4 different technologies. So tonight we're going to be talking about home energy efficiency. That's adding insulation to your home. We're going to talk about air source heat pumps. You may be hearing ductless mini splits or air source heat pumps. We're going to talk about ground source heat pumps, also called geothermal, and then we'll touch on the heat pump water heaters as well. So we're going to talk with Dandelion and Healthy Home to hear about these, but we do have a whole list of contractors that we recommend that also participate in the Con Ed rebate program as well. So let's get into the Con Ed rebate program. We've got Pablo Colon here. He's the manager of strategic engagement for clean heat at Con Ed, and he's going to be showing us what rebates and incentives are available for these energy upgrades. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Pablo Colon here from Con Edison, and Lauren, thank you again for the introduction as we get into speaking about Con Edison clean heat rebates. So the talking points for me today are going over Con Ed clean heat incentive offerings, a brief overview of how to find a clean heat contractor, and we will wrap up with some information on locating clean heat resources. So going over the Con Edison clean heat residential offerings. So Con Edison, we offer incentives to residential customers for a variety of different heat pump installations with the sole purpose to electrify space and water heating. And some of the technologies that these incentives are available for are air source heat pumps, which may be referred to as ASHP, ground source heat pumps, which may be referred to as geothermal or GSHP. And we also have rebates available for heat pump hot water heaters, HPWH. The projects that are eligible under the residential incentives that we provide are existing single-family homes or existing apartments in buildings with 1 to 4 dwelling units or individual apartments in larger multifamily buildings. As I mentioned earlier, we have incentives available for ground source heat pumps, and as it relates to new construction buildings, incentives for new construction buildings are only available for ground source projects. They're not available for air source projects. So it's for new construction, it's ground source and water heating projects. So going over the actual rebates that are available. So we're going to break these out by technology, starting with air source heat pumps. So we are in the process of offering new incentive rates for air source heat pump projects that decommission their legacy space heating systems, whether that's oil or gas, as part of a limited time 2024 promotion. To be eligible for these incentives, projects must be completed and submitted on or before May 31st, 2024. We also have distinct incentive rates available for customers located within disadvantaged communities. So going over the promotion rates, if your project type is a single family home that is not located in a disadvantaged community, the rebate that you are eligible for is up to $10,000 or 50% of the project cost for the entire home, or $6,000 per apartment for projects that have 1 to 4 dwelling units. So for projects that are located within a disadvantaged community, the rebates that homeowners are eligible for in single family homes are $12,000 per home, or per apartment, it's $7,000 per dwelling unit for homes that have 1 to 4 dwelling units. And on here on this slide, I mentioned that this limited time offer is available for projects that submit applications on or before May 31st. For projects that submit applications after the limited time offer deadline of May 31st, those projects will see the base rates that are shown on the screen here, which is a reduction of $2,000 for single family homes not located in disadvantaged communities, dropping the rate from $10,000 to $8,000. Similarly, the rates for projects located within disadvantaged communities would drop from $12,000 to $10,000. And again, that's for projects that submit applications after the limited time offer deadline, which would be after May 31st. So on the next slide here, we will go over the rates that are available for ground source heat pump projects. We also have a limited time offer that's available for these ground source projects. And to be eligible, these projects must be installed on or before December 31st. So there's more time that is available for ground source projects in comparison to air source projects. And we also have distinct rates that are available for homeowners that are located within disadvantaged communities. So the promotional rate for projects that are not located within a disadvantaged community is $35,000. And projects that are located within a disadvantaged community, the rebates for ground source projects are $45,000. Similarly, projects that are submitted after the deadline that's shown on screen here, December 31st, will receive a reduced incentive rate, dropping the rate down from $35,000 to $25,000 for projects that are not within a disadvantaged community, and a drop of $10,000 from $45,000 to $35,000 for projects that are located within a disadvantaged community. So now going over the rebates that are available for heat pump hot water heater, we offer an incentive of $1,000 for eligible heat pump hot water heater equipment. And there are 2 pathways that customers can use to access those heat pump hot water heater incentives. The first pathway is a distributor channel, where the incentives are offered to customers through a distributor for each qualifying heat pump hot water heater sale. Another pathway that's available to you all is the retail channel, which offers an incentive directly to customers for each eligible heat pump hot water heater that's purchased at select retailers. And for information on the participating retailers, the link shown on screen here will take you to the retailers that are eligible to provide those incentives. So going over some information on how to find a clean heat contractor. So Con Edison maintains a list of contractors that are qualified to participate in the clean heat program. Customers may search the database for contractor information, and there's different tools that you can utilize to help you find the contractor, whether that's searching by location or searching by a contractor's name. And the information on our website guides you towards finding a contractor. Contractors can be extremely helpful in providing assistance in determining the best heat pump option for your home. And lastly, to wrap up here, here's some information on the clean heat resources that are available to you. So for more information about the Clean Heat program, please visit our website, conedison.com/heat pumps, or the cleanheat.newyork.gov/contractors website for more information about the Clean Heat program. Additionally, the information that I just spoke to about finding a participating contractor, that information is available to you at the coned-findacontractor.icfsiteline.com to help you navigate a contractor based on your needs. And for more information on Con Edison rebates and energy saving incentives, please visit the coned.com/energy efficiency website for more information on rebates and energy savings.
Okay, great. Thanks, Pablo.
Thank you.
And I'm seeing some good questions come through the chat about decommissioning and all that good stuff. So let's hear from the contractors, and then we'll come back to this idea of what actually needs to be done to get those rebates. So we're moving into home energy efficiency. This is talking about adding insulation and air sealing your home. This is going to help you reduce your energy bills. If you're using clean heating and cooling, or if you're using fossil fuels, you're going to find that your energy bills typically go down. And one of the best things, your house will be more comfortable and quieter when you add insulation. So let's get to hearing from Lexi.
Thanks so much for all your time, Lauren and Pablo. Thank you so much for reviewing all that with Con Edison. I also want to say that the conversations happening in the chat already are great. So I'm very excited to be talking to this very active and engaged group of participants. So my name is Lexi. I am with Healthy Home Energy and Consulting. We are a home performance contractor that also has a fossil-free HVAC division that operates in Westchester and Putnam counties, as well as in Lower Dutchess County. Next slide. So just to kind of give you a brief overview of who's speaking to you, like I mentioned, my name is Lexi. I'm the office manager at a, again, smaller home performance company that does both insulation and air sealing work in Westchester County. Healthy Home was actually born out of a new construction business called Brenner Builders back in 2007. Like I mentioned, we do insulation and air sealing work, really helping homeowners get their homes ready for heat pumps, reducing their overall heating and cooling loads by better insulating and better air sealing them. We also opened up a fossil-free HVAC division, so we do install air source heat pumps exclusively as well. And we also have a sister company called Healthy Home Academy, which is working with the industry to help get people trained up in this industry in both insulation and air sealing and heat pumps to kind of help the state meet its goals in terms of decarbonizing. I am Lexi, I'm the office manager, and I've been with Healthy Home since 2015. Next slide. So what I want to touch on with everyone here is really kind of getting an idea of, before we kind of get into this new technology, these air source heat pumps that can both heat and cool your home with electricity, or ground source heat pumps that I know Patrick is going to touch on later, is what can we do right now to make our homes more comfortable and get the homes ready for heat pumps? So I like to use these few images. A lot of these images are might be what some people see in their homes. If you go down to your basement, you might see some gaps between the foundation of your home and the flooring above it. If you go up into your attic, you might see a bunch of like the recessed lights that are up there, and there's a bunch of dirt and muck. You might look at your ductwork and see some gaps and wonder, what do I do? What does all this mean? My home isn't super comfortable and I want it to be more comfortable, and my energy usage is high. What are all these things that I can do to make my home more energy efficient? And we kind of always take the approach of treat your house as a system. So try not to look at just one thing, but look at how everything impacts one another. Next slide. So we kind of always want to start with an idea of a house as a system model, kind of find out where you are in your home. So understand where you might be having air leaks. Your equipment is using fuel, maybe in the winter, or electricity in the summer with your traditional AC to condition air. If that conditioned air just kind of leaves the house, you have to do it again. So you kind of want to understand where your home is leaking, kind of find out what your home needs to reduce your energy usage. What can you do to make the home more comfortable and energy efficient and keep that conditioned air where it belongs? And then from there, take educated action. I do always like to kind of warn people that not everyone can follow a perfect path. A, B, C, D doesn't always work for everyone. If you're running into a specific issue with a specific room, or if your HVAC system suddenly dies, you might have to go out of order a little bit. But if you are in a lucky situation where you can kind of be conscious first to reduce your heating and cooling load first by better insulating and better air sealing your home, and allow HVAC contractors to properly size your heating and cooling systems, your ground source heat pumps, your air source heat pumps, to make sure that they do work efficiently. So you don't have any issues when you get below freezing and your home can stay comfortable year round and you're not driving up your energy usage. Next slide. So essentially, this is kind of a brief overview of what Healthy Home does. So like I mentioned, we are a contractor and our process always begins with the whole home evaluation first. Our process is about 2 to 3 hours. And during that, we're gonna do a bunch of physical testing on your home. So we're gonna do things like a blower door, which actually measures the air leakage on your home. So like I mentioned before, you kind of know air might be leaving out around windows or doors and you might feel draft. We actually want to get a physical measurement of how leaky the home is. So we do that. We are going to check your combustion appliances. If you have a boiler or a boiler or a furnace now, we want to make sure those are running safely and efficiently. So we test those to kind of see where you're at. We are doing infrared scanning to see how well insulation is performing. A lot of the measures that our company does to better insulate and air seal a home can also impact the home's indoor air quality. So we're also doing indoor air quality sampling. After all that testing, we come back to the office, we create an energy model and put a solution for you, let you know, kind of give you an itemized list of what you can do to make the home more comfortable and more energy efficient, as well as if you've been in the home for a full year, we'll also let you know like what you can expect to see in terms of an estimated return on investment. This really helps you get an idea of like what is the best bang for your buck in terms of like savings to like how much money you're going to spend to when you could see those savings help you in the heating months or the cooling months. But also there's things like comfort concerns that you might be able to directly impact. A lot of people might have a bedroom that's over a garage that tends to be really cold or drafty. Things like that we're always addressing as part of your solution as well. I do always like to be transparent and let people know that Healthy Homes evaluation does have a copay for our process. New York State does have a free energy audit program. So there's a list of contractors, and Lauren also has a Sustainable Westchester has a list of contractors where you can get a different type of evaluation also for free from New York State. But this is what our company does. So I always like to let people know that up front. Next slide. So kind of in terms of what you can do to make sure your home is comfortable and energy efficient and getting it ready for heat pumps, you want to be conscious to maybe like the first thing you want to address is putting a hat on the house, kind of keeping that hot air from leaving the home or going upwards and out of the home. So putting a hat on your home. The next thing you might want to address is maybe some boots. I kind of like using like the clothing analogy for your home because again, like I mentioned, a lot of people might have a bedroom that's over a garage. You want to make sure that the areas that between unconditioned and conditioned spaces, there's a clear barrier. Next, you might want to get maybe some insulation on your exterior walls. A lot of people may notice when they kind of feel the cold, their walls in the winter, that they're really, really cold. A lot of people also tend to notice a lot of drafts around windows and doors. There's a lot of work you can do to like air seal around them. You don't necessarily just have to replace all your windows. You can do a lot of work to kind of air seal around it. And if you're in a position where you're able to do all of those things and kind of put a hat and boots and coats in your home, that'll be great to make sure those heat pumps that you want to install down the line are going to function as efficiently as possible. Next slide. So like I mentioned before, kind of a quick summary. Step one, kind of trying to get a baseline of where your home is currently at. It's really hard to answer questions of like, well, what do I need? Every homeowner uses their home differently. Everyone who has their home might be in a different state. They might have done a renovation in part of their home, various things. So if you have the ability to do that first step of getting a baseline energy audit, understand where your home is at, and then take that next step of kind of understanding what's going on in your home and what do you need to do? What are your priorities and what are the things that you're looking to do to make improvements? Is your goal savings first and foremost? Is it reducing your carbon footprint? A lot of those two things do oftentimes go hand in hand. Is there a specific room that you're really concerned about? Is it really to take the next steps to get off of fossil fuels? Ensuring that you're kind of taking into account all the things that a priority to you and your family is really important. Like I mentioned, reducing your heating and cooling load is really, really important. Earlier in the chat, I saw someone be concerned that, well, how these systems might not work below freezing. Now, this is a kind of very common misconception, But then someone else very quickly, promptly kind of followed up with that, mentioning that insulation is a problem. And this is one of those things. Air source heat pumps and geothermal heat pumps kind of aren't, they don't operate the same as like a traditional oil or fuel fired system. They kind of want to stay at a comfortable temperature all the time. So ensuring that your home's thermal envelope retains your conditioned air in a healthy manner is really, really important. So making sure the home is properly air sealed and insulated can really, one, extend the life of your current equipment if you're not ready to make a full HVAC investment right now, but it also gets you kind of set up to get your home heat pump ready when you are ready to make that shift. And then, like they mentioned, the last step of installing air source heat pumps, ground source heat pumps, and or heat pump water heaters to kind of fill out that getting off of fossil fuels pathway. Next slide. So I always kind of like to use this little analogy. On the left-hand side, you kind of see the more traditional radiators. They might be very common as some people to see in their homes, where the radiant baseboard heating or the larger cast iron radiant heating. So to get rid of those, you kind of add some insulation. The middle one image is a picture of an attic encapsulation. Kind of see the insulation is above the heating and cooling equipment, bringing that equipment into what we call like a semi-conditioned space. So it's not quite as hot up there, really allowing that system to perform optimally. The lower middle picture is a picture of a rim joist, where we're kind of really making sure it's well sealed between the foundation of the home and the floor above it, to kind of make sure you get the home really nice and tight, reduce the amount of unnecessary air leakage in the home. And doing those things is really going to create a good situation for ground source heat pumps or air source heat pumps for your home, to make sure they do operate efficiently, to make your home even more comfortable, and to not have to worry about your home getting below freezing in the winter. I think that's the end of my slides. Yes, so I'll also put my contact information into the chat. But like I mentioned, our company does do both insulation and air sealing, as well as air source heat pumps, both ducted and ductless installations. I think Lauren is going to touch on that a little bit later, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me, I'll be on the chat till the end, so we can chat about it in the Q&A. So I appreciate all of your time. Thanks so much.
Lexi. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
Okay, let's keep continuing on this idea of insulation and air sealing and talk about the rebate programs that are available for homeowners to take advantage of. So NYSERDA, a New York State Research and Development Authority, they've got programs that we say are free. You can have a free home energy assessment by calling up NYSERDA or calling Sustainable Westchester, reaching out to one of those contractors. It's true, there is a free assessment. Like Lexi said, Healthy Home does charge for theirs, and there are other paid pieces of the assessment that you could add on with some of the contractors. So say you wanted to do a blower door test, there could be a cost to doing that. But either way, the home energy assessment is a great way to figure out what's going on in your home and then get ready to make a plan on how to repair whatever issues may come up. So pretty much everyone in New York State can be eligible for the Comfort Home program. That is set up as 3 different packages for insulation and air sealing: good, better, best. Depending on which package you select, there is a different incentive level for that. Plus, additional incentives can come from Con Ed. So depending on if you live in a disadvantaged community, and thank you, Patrick, I noticed you put in the chat the link to the disadvantaged communities map. So if anyone's saying, do I live in a disadvantaged community, pull up that section of the chat and look at the map, type in your address and see. But through the Con Ed program, there are additional rebates for air sealing, depending on what your current heating system is. Lexi, would you add anything to that? Nope, good. Okay.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my mute button. I think you touched on everything. Yeah.
Okay, great. Perfect. So now I am fixing something on my computer. Let's go to the next slide and talk about an additional New York State program that is directed towards helping people with lower incomes. So the Empower Plus program is for folks that are perhaps receiving benefits such as HEAP, SNAP, TANF, or SSI. Sometimes seniors that are receiving Social Security could qualify for these programs as well. I put the different income tiers that are available on this slide so you can look and see how many people are in your house, and if your income level is falling in between one of these two categories, it would mean you could either qualify. If you qualify for the lower income tier, you can get $10,000 worth of free energy upgrade work in your home. So free insulation could include possibly new refrigerator, upgraded lighting, and the Empower program can serve people in homes and apartments as well for the lower income tier. And then when we look at the moderate income tier, that would allow you to receive a 50% bonus up to $5,000 in rebates from New York State. So you heard about rebates from Con Ed, now you're hearing about rebates from the state. And I think if I did this right, my next slide is about rebates from the federal government. So the federal government right now, through the Inflation Reduction Act, has a lot of rebates in the form of tax credits available for people to take advantage of. And the tax credits obviously are for people that have a high enough tax burden, so a tax credit would benefit you. If you don't have a high enough tax burden, you won't be receiving a check in the mail from the IRS, I'm sorry to say. But these are worthwhile to take a look at. And the tax credits are set up in a way that you can do this work a little bit each year. Most people aren't going to do a ton of work all at once, and that kind of looks pretty good for the drawdown of the tax credit. So for example, let's say this year you were looking to insulate your home, you could expect to claim up to $1,200 on insulation and air sealing. There's some tax credits for doors, windows, and the energy audit itself. So these tax credits, gotta say the right thing. These tax credits are capped year over year, and we'll move into the different tax credit tables for the different technologies. Okay, Carm, can you make sure the right people? Yeah, we're good. Okay. So now let's move on to heat pumps. We talked about making your house nice and warm and cozy by insulating it. Now let's think about removing fossil fuels from our homes. So there are different types of heat pumps that are available. We're going to go pretty in depth with geothermal, but a shout out for air source heat pumps. There are different types of air source heat pumps available. There is a whole house air source heat pump as well as ducted mini splits. So in this picture, you can see this is a mini split unit. Maybe people on this call already have them, but they are providing heating and cooling. And they work well for houses that would not be able to have central air conditioning or centralized duct be installed. So a lot of people love them. They keep some rooms in the wintertime cooler and other rooms warmer. They're really able to do a customized heating solution. What else? Air source heat pumps, the ductless mini splits they're great. I mean, I have one here and I love it for heating and cooling. There also is an option of doing a centralized unit. So if you have existing ductwork or if you've always dreamed of having central air in the summer, installing a whole house air source heat pump is also something that could be possible for you. Okay, let's see. Do we have? Yes, and there are federal tax credits associated with heat pumps. Lexi, would you add anything about air source heat pumps?
Nope, you've definitely touched on it. I always like to just mention one thing in terms of air source heat pumps, and I saw Pablo mentioning this a lot in the comments as well. Reach out to a clean heat contractors and kind of get an understanding of what you're eligible for, and the various tiers that are available for between. And I know some people might be on the NYSEG territory, but between utilities, it is slightly different.
That's right. Yes, there are people from NYSEG here. You do have rebates for heat pumps, but they are not as significant as Con Ed rebates. So, and when we're talking about federal tax credits, that is for people no matter what utility you have. So for heat pumps, the tax credit is annually capped at $2,000, and that works for the air source and the heat pump hot water heater. It's different for geothermal, and we'll hear about that from Patrick. So I think that is what we're going to do next. Yes, so let's talk about geothermal.
Hey, that's me. I'm Patrick. Guys, I'm Patrick from Dandelion Geothermal. I exclusively and solely focus on geothermal heating and cooling applications. There are, as we've just learned and we'll continue to talk about, a number of other home energy efficiency options that we all have at our disposal. But Dandelion's primary goal is to make geothermal accessible to all homeowners. We're right here in Mount Kisco, so we're dead center in Westchester. This is our backyard, our home turf, and we're happy to be here. But despite that, we are the largest residential geo installers in the country. And, it's really our pleasure to be able to build our community here in Westchester. You can go to the next slide here. That would be helpful. Thank you. Really, what we're after is to eliminate fossil fuels. And there's a number of good reasons to eliminate fossil fuels from your home, whether, because it reduces carbon or because it saves you money. Whatever your preference is or whatever you're looking to get out of it, terminating your relationship with fossil fuels is the solution. And we're here to help you take advantage of, one particular version of those solutions. So what Dandelion does is, what previously just didn't exist in geothermal, right? It used to be that geothermal was this far-fetched idea because, you had to sort of hunt down a contractor who even knew what it was. And then they would have to go and hire a bunch of different people from all different walks of life to get it done. You'd need someone to drill a deep vertical well somewhere on your property. That's one quintessential part of installing a geothermal system. You'd need to make sure that someone could design it correctly. Someone could do the electrical wiring. Someone could do the necessary plumbing. And you'd have to make sure that all of those people got it right. They didn't cut any corners. And so the biggest benefit that I think Dandelion brings to the space is that we do absolutely everything you need to convert your home to geothermal under one roof. We're doing all of this work in-house with Dandelion, drill rigs and Dandelion employees who are also all based here in Westchester. Today we've got over 2,000 customers. I updated that figure a couple of months ago, and I think we're closer to 2,300 now, if I'm not mistaken. So, I'm really excited to be able to say this. This is really our vision. So, what is geothermal, though? I think a lot of people have heard geothermal thrown out as a buzzword, but don't really know exactly what it is. And it's actually pretty simple. What we're going to do is we're going to tap into the Earth's natural supply of heating and cooling. Below our feet, from about 10 feet below grade to about 1,000 plus, it's a relatively constant 55 degrees. And this is dependent to some degree on elevation and your exact geology and location, but this is pretty close throughout Westchester. And so what we do is when it's 10 degrees outside or when it's 90, we tap that 55-degree earth temperature as a heat sink to offset your heating and cooling needs. And so the specific way that we make it work without any sort of help or any sort of additional heat or boost to get us from 55 to 70 or whatever it is that you prefer in your house is we have a heat pump in the basement. And it adds just a little bit of compression, which boosts naturally the temperature of the heat that's entering your ductwork. And then in the summertime, we can just reverse that process and get cool air into your ducts from the cool earth. So it really is, the most efficient HVAC system that you can buy because we're always tapping that 55-degree source for your heat. We functionally focus on only this geothermal application. There's a number of other great things that geothermal can mean. You can produce geothermal energy to produce electricity, but we specifically and narrowly focus on your home heating because guess what? I think every single person in here would agree that when it comes to the biggest bills that you pay in a year, it's oil, it's gas, it's propane. It's whatever you use to heat your house. And we're hoping to help you significantly reduce that by switching to geothermal. Geothermal, though, is also the single best thing that you can do for most people in your lifetime to reduce carbon. I do this for a living because personally, I am a huge environmentalist. And this is the best thing that I can do with my time to reduce carbon. But it's really not difficult to understand. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that a 60 to 80% reduction in your CO2 output is a good thing for everybody. And when you think about all of the different things that you can do to decrease your carbon footprint, you can add pretty much all of them up together and they'll pale in comparison to switching to geothermal. I'm talking about electric vehicles and solar and insulation. These are all really big key components to getting us off of fossil fuels and reducing our energy dependence and improving our carbon footprint. But geothermal is pound for pound the single best thing that you can do to reduce your carbon footprint as a homeowner. And I'm proud to be able to offer it to you with some reduced prices, thanks to Con Edison, thanks to New York State. And they have a really attractive income tax credit that's specific to geothermal. There's also, of course, as we've been referring to, a federal investment tax credit that applies to geothermal. And so, when it comes down to it, Con Edison customers in particular, although as we peppered in here, NYSEG customers also get some incentives for geothermal that are worth considering. Con Edison offers the best rebate program in the country. As we heard about just a little while ago, you can get $35,000 off of your geothermal system right now. And this is, of course, a short time offering. But I mean, basically, there has never been a better time financially to get a geothermal system, despite that inflation has been rampant and everything costs more. And it's really thanks to these incentives and rebates that geothermal is really affordable and attractive. So I'll show you a couple of pictures to sort of demonstrate the physical reality, I think, of what we're doing, right? I gave you a nice, neat little cartoon illustration, but I want to show you what this actually looks like in real life. And so I've got a few photos here to show you. We've got our drill rigs, which do this work to drill the deep vertical bore that we need to install your ground loop. And we use two different types of these drill rigs. They're both pretty small and sleek. They're not your father's drill rig. And they fit into your backyard in Westchester. I would say 80% of the people that I talk to in Westchester have a place that we can drill. It was not always that way. I think when people think of well drilling rigs, they think of a big dump truck sized thing. And they're like, oh, that would never fit on my property. But the Camacchio, as the sleek Italian name would suggest, is only 6 feet 7 inches wide. So if you can fit a Toyota Tundra into your backyard, we can probably fit a drill rig back there. And so, this is really what has allowed us to make this a reality for people, because, you can't fit a dump truck sized drill rig onto most properties in Westchester. So this is what it really means to custom tool your equipment to our local area, right? This is what it looks like when when we've installed the borehole. So you can see it's actually a pretty small hole. When you're talking about diameter, that thing is 5 inches in diameter in particular, and we just send one pipe down and one pipe back up. Contains a fluid. It's a 75-25 mixture of water and food grade glycol. And that's how we exchange heat between the house and the earth. And if you go to the next picture here, you can see how we connect those pipes into your basement, right? So you're already starting to pick up on something, right? Which is, this is a pretty intensive scope of work. It requires drilling and excavating and some impact to your property. And, I'll be happy to talk to anyone who's interested individually about what that means for you. But there's some landscaping undoubtedly required once you've finished installing your geothermal system. But once you do, it'll look as if there was nothing there. It's the only type of HVAC system that you can get that does not require an outdoor condensing unit. And so you have to go through all this, short-term turmoil and do some landscaping repair to get back to where you need to be. But once you do it, it'll be the cleanest, neatest system that you've ever had, and no one will know it's there. Inside the house, this is all it is. It's regular old HVAC equipment. You know it, you love it. It's in your attic, it's in your basement. We'll replace it with some sort of space age looking boxes. Those of you, if you go into your basement or attic and your air handler is like tan or taupe, it's time to replace it. They don't make them like that anymore. Now they look nice and neat like this. And I think, the beauty of this really isn't in how it physically looks. It's that this is an all-in-one device that does all of your heating and cooling. And so this represents something. I think when someone looks at this box, they're like, okay, like geothermal, cool. But it's what it represents, right? This box allows you to eliminate fossil fuel heating from your life forever. If you've got an oil tank, we're going to yank that thing out of there. You're never going to see it again. You're going to watch it bobble around in the back of a pickup truck on the way out of your driveway, and you're going to wave goodbye. And it's going to be awesome. And I can't wait to see the look on your face when that happens. But this is how it's done. This is what it looks like, boots on the ground. So if anyone wants to know a little bit more about whether they might be a good fit for a geothermal system, I'll be happy to talk to you about it. Not every house is a good fit, right? If every house was a good fit, then they wouldn't have air source heat pumps. Air source heat pumps are low impact, easy to install, and they get the job done. You will save more money on operating costs having a geothermal system installed. It costs a lot less to operate a geothermal system, but we've got to tear up your lawn for a little while. And so, I think it's probably best for the average person who's interested to talk to, both air source and ground source heat pump installers to get a sense of what might fit better for you. I promise I'll be happy to tell you. And I don't bite much, but if you use this QR code here, I got Lauren shaking her head. If you use this QR code here, you can go to our website and figure out whether you might be a good fit for a geothermal system. We'll do a quick questionnaire with you and determine, whether we have space to put a drill rig on your property and whether you have the right type of existing HVAC infrastructure, like ductwork, for example, that could help us install a system. Or if you don't, what it'll take to get there. So please don't hesitate to reach out and mention me by name. I'll give you some money off of your project. Oh,
You're muted, Lauren. You're muted.
I muted myself. Darn, and I was starting out so great too. Well, thanks, Patrick, for everything you've just presented and great questions in the chat. So we're going to look back to those questions in just a moment. Another thing I want to share with folks is the Westchester Geo Possibilities tool. This was created by NYSERDA. So if you're wondering if your house is a good fit for geothermal, you could type your address in here and see some projected information. So the last technology that we're going to cover pretty quickly is the heat pump water heater. And funny enough, this might be on your mind. People have to replace their water heaters more often than you have to replace a full heating system. So maybe this is the time where you're thinking of upgrading. So if you do have a hot water heater that is fossil fuel based and getting near the end of life, looking towards a heat pump hot water heater really is a great way to go. They're 2 to 3 times more efficient than a traditional hot water heater, and there's some bonuses to it, including dehumidification. If you have the unit in a space that's kind of damp, that'll help. So this is a picture of Dean next to his hot water heater. The brand that he chose was Rheem. He really likes this hot water heater. He's got an app on his phone. He's able to toggle through different temperatures and get a lot of data from the machine. This hot water heater is a bit taller than the traditional one, so you have to have enough room in your basement to fit the taller unit. And it is like we heard from Pablo, there are rebates from Con Ed right now, as well as a rebate from the Inflation Reduction Act. So combining those two different income streams can help to reduce the cost of the unit, and really it pays itself back since it's much more efficient than a typical unit. So if you're thinking, okay, which contractor can help me with the heat pump hot water heater, if you go on the Sustainable Westchester website, navigate to our contractor list, you'll see which contractors we recommend for that. Okay, so lastly, just a few announcements, and then we'll get into the Q&A. We have a lot of resources on our website from Sustainable Westchester, including case studies and testimonials. What else? We've got rebate sheets summarizing by technology all the different income sources you could find to lower the cost of your project. And we're available, so definitely make use of those. I'll make a shout out for the videos that we have. We've interviewed probably over 15 or 20 homeowners now. We've brought cameras into their homes. They show us their technologies in the videos. They talk about the money that they saved and how these upgrades have impacted them. So those are all available on the website, and I'll put the link in the chat when I have a second. Quick shout out for upcoming events. April is Earth Month. If you haven't been to an Earth Month event in the past, I highly recommend checking one out in April. Sustainable Westchester will be rolling out a calendar. This is the one from last year. It'll look similar for 2024 of all the great events that are family friendly, great food, music, drinks, vendors, awesome stuff. So keep an eye out for that. Just a reminder, if you're going to sign up for grid rewards, you might as well do it by the end of this month. You'll make the most money that way. And we are having a career fair on Wednesday, April 3rd, focused on clean energy careers and jobs. So I think I can stop sharing my screen now, and we can look to the questions in the chat. Oh, actually, let's first pivot. We have Liam. Liam has been a great supporter of Sustainable Westchester. Liam also installed geothermal and is willing to provide his testimonial. Liam, you want to share? Let's unmute you. Let's see. There we go.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat. We just installed it over the summer with the incentives and the tax rebate. The cost of the system was about the same as replacing the furnace and the AC units, which were sort of causing problems and about to die. So, and then of course, as Patrick said, going forward, my energy bills are much lower. I mean, it's the point now where I'm using so little gas that the set monthly fee for my gas is a real pain in the neck because it's 4 times as much as what I'm using. It did make a little mess of the yard, right? But you know, that's if you want to plant a pollinator garden, then you could use that as an excuse. So I would recommend it. It's quite a big project, and you need to sort of plan ahead, and it just takes a while to get all the pieces to come together. But I'm glad I did it.
Thanks for sharing, Liam. How long, like in between finishing the job and having the original idea, what was the time frame for you?
Oh, a couple of years I was thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
you know, it's sort of, it's just, you know, it takes, you've got to have, I mean, I guess I'd say there's probably a cash flow issue, right? Because you get the refund, but you have to have paid the contractor before you get the tax refund. So, you know, there's that to consider. So yeah, it's probably not for everyone, but definitely, you know, as Patrick said, it's about the greenest thing you can do. So yeah, in terms of bang for your buck, I think it's a great idea.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing. And did you do anything to insulate your house before adding the geothermal?
Yeah, so they told us to insulate the attic, the under of the attic, and that, you know, that, you know, as they explained, that means we can put in a smaller system which costs less because you're not losing as much energy going out the top of the roof. So yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks again, Liam, for sharing, and thanks for answering questions in the chat. So I know that a lot of questions have been answered by people, but I just want to call out some of them that I think are extra important. So let's see, Pablo, we started with some Con Ed questions. Do you want to summarize again about how projects need to be completed and talk a little bit about decommissioning?
Sure. 1 second. Yep. So there were a lot of questions asked in the chat about the dates that are required to be eligible to receive the limited time offers that I introduced during the slides. And I'm not sure it'll be, if it's useful to bring back the slides just so that that information is displayed on screen.
Okay,
but
go
yes,
ahead.
To be able to receive the limited time offer or the promotional rates, those projects need to be installed by the dates that are listed on the slides. So for air source heat pumps, those projects need to be installed with applications submitted by May 31st, 2024. And for ground source heat pumps, those projects need to be completed by December 31st, 2024. So end of year. That was a question that we received on the dates associated with being eligible for the promotional rates, which are higher than the base rates. And again, worth repeating, if the project is installed after the dates that are on here, then the incentive that you will be eligible for will be the base rates, which Lauren is kindly guiding her mouse over, which thank you very much. Another question that was asked in the chat, I feel like there were several questions asked about installing heat pump units, but keeping legacy systems. So the program, although the focus is decommissioning legacy systems, there is incentive rates offered for projects that install heat pumps but leave in their legacy systems. We'll say that the incentive rate that is offered is a much reduced lower number than the incentives that you're seeing on screen here.
And do you want to describe like integrated controls and what that would look like in someone's house?
Sure. So integrated controls is having an air source heat pump or a heat pump installed, and then having the option or ability to integrate over or control over to your legacy system. There are some requirements that need to be met for that project to be eligible. Notably, that project still needs to meet 100% of the building heating load, although it's a integrated controls or a project that has both heat pumps and legacy systems.
Okay, and this is just a chart, Sustainable Westchester. We make these charts, and this is summarizing the difference between if you were to decommission your entire house versus the integrated controls. You could see, I mean, the prices are different, you know, $10,000 versus $2,500. So it is a little bit of less money for that. Okay. And
Right.
if after this call is over, I'm going to email everybody that registered. You'll get a link to the slides, you'll get the recording, and I think I'll throw in all of these rebate sheets as well, so you'll have them. Okay, other Con Ed questions. Carm, do you see any that are good? Decommissioning. These services are also available for commercial buildings. Sustainable Westchester has a commercial building decarbonization program that can consult with you if it is a co-op building. Same thing for if it's a nonprofit. Actually, there are incentives for nonprofits as well from the federal government, since they don't carry a tax burden. The nonprofits can look to actually receive a credit from the federal government. What else do we need to answer? The decommissioning also requires removal of gas, oil-fueled water heater, and install of an electrical water heater. Someone asked that as a question. Who wants to answer it? If you were to decommission your house and say you had a gas laundry machine or a gas water heater, what happens to those two items?
You can leave them in place. They have different like sections of like you can essentially decommission your heating system and have a domestic hot water heater, domestic water heater in place that's still connected to your gas line. They really are primarily focused on the heating load itself. So if you do happen to have other appliances that you're not ready to move forward with right now, you can leave other gas appliances in place as long as the equipment that does the heating load is decommissioned or removed from site.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people are like, I need to keep my stove. So that is definitely possible. Okay.
That's correct. There was also a question in the chat about incentives for, I believe, churches. So I mainly touched on the incentives that are available for residential projects, but the Clean Heat Projects Con Edison offers incentives for residential projects, multifamily, small and medium businesses, and commercial and industrial projects as well, in addition to heat pump hot water heaters. So on our website, there's information that will be available to you for all the market segments that we provide incentives for, not just the residential sectors.
Right. Thanks for pointing that out. And also, those buildings are very good candidates to enroll in demand response as well. If there's summertime air conditioning in the house of worship or the community building, that's a great candidate. Earn some extra dollars from demand response. Okay. So there was a lot of questions. I have ductwork existing. I don't. Can I install ductwork? Can I use my existing central air for an air source heat pump system? So let's get into some of those questions. Is it a simpler process if you want to convert your home to air source heat pumps and you have the ducts for central air already? This person is asking, they've got central ducts for AC and baseboard for oil heating of the home.
Yeah, I mean, I think both Patrick and I kind of answered this separately, but in terms of air source heat pumps, so I'll speak to that and then I'll let kind of Patrick jump in on the geothermal realm. But if you have ductwork in place for your central air system, you can do a ducted air source heat pump. So kind of a very similar idea where there's an outdoor unit, but the air handler in your attic would do both heating and cooling. That ductwork sometimes you can use it and sometimes you can't. A clean heat contractor would need to come out and evaluate the ductwork. And there's a lot of factors that go into why that is and is not possible. Sometimes you can use the current ductwork in place and sometimes you cannot. A lot of factors that play into that, such as like static pressures and the size of the air handler. There's lots of things that go into it that are honestly a little outside of my knowledge, but I do know that sometimes you can use it, sometimes you can't. And being on site and actually testing the physical ductwork, doing duct leakage measurements and things like that. And the sizing of the ductwork is really important for air source heat pumps. But in terms of aesthetics, I know some people are concerned about the idea of having the line set running all around the house for the ductless units. If you do have room for ductwork, again, that doesn't usually mean that whether you need to replace that ductwork or use the current ductwork in place, that you can use a ducted air source heat pump system. And you don't need to use all the line set and stuff that goes around the home for the ductless units if you have one in place. And I'll pass it over to Patrick to answer the ductwork question about geothermal.
Yeah, and as much as I do know about ducts and static pressure and distribution, I am a huge duct nerd, and I'll climb all in your attic if you let me. But I'll spare you all the boring details, just to say that the reason for this, the reason that not all ductwork is compatible with heat pumps, is because heat pumps produce a much cooler heating supply temperature than what you get from a conventional furnace or something like that. Usually when you're heating with oil or natural gas, your heating supply temperature can be as high as 180 degrees. And so you're sort of blasting these short, intense bursts of really hot heat into your space and trying to approximate a 70-degree temperature at the thermostat. And by comparison, what your heat pumps are going to do, and this is air source or ground source, is sort of give you a more moderate heat. Geothermal heating temperature supply tends to be really constant because the ground source where we obtain it from is really constant. It's about 90, 95 degrees compared with 180. And so there are a number of benefits to this, including that it doesn't dry your air out as much in the wintertime as you might be used to from a furnace. But it also means that we have to move more of that cooler air into the space to produce, your 70-degree preferred temperature. And so in that process, we've got to make sure that we don't turn your house into sounding like a freight train or something, right? Because we don't want to be pushing too much air for your ducts to handle. And it's commonly the case that with existing cooling ducts, right, if you're only using them for air conditioning in this climate zone is lower load than heating. And so when you use ducts just for cooling, they're often undersized when you try to go back and use them for heating. And it's just made even worse by the fact that your heat pumps are going to produce a cooler heating supply temperature. So that's why. And that's not to say that your cooling ducts won't work. We would do what's called a true flow air test and determine, exactly how much air we can deliver through those ducts into the living space and compare that with the amount of air that the appropriately sized heat pump produces in order to determine whether you need to modify those ducts. So there's your, nerdy 2 cents on on ductwork and heat pumps.
Good. We want to get nerdy. That's why people came to a webinar, so it's good. Let's stick with the geothermal question. Somebody asks, for which types of homes does geothermal not work? And then they are asking, how much does a geothermal conversion cost if you get rebates as large as $35,000?
Yeah, actually, you know what? Just write me a blank check and I'm going to get in my car right now. I'll be there in 20 minutes with a shovel and we'll get started. So yeah, geothermal systems are, of course, the most expensive of all the HVAC systems that you can get. And if it were not for these rebates and incentives, we wouldn't even be on the same webinar together. We'd be talking to people who could write blank checks, right? And so, geothermal has a wide range of costs, and it's almost entirely dependent on your particular house, your particular HVAC setup, your particular property. I met with someone earlier today in Dobbs Ferry who's a Con Ed customer, and for us to convert her entire 2,300 square foot house to geothermal, her net cost is $16,500 because of all the rebates and incentives that apply, without which her system would have cost $60,000, right? And so I think as a percentage of the total project cost, that huge rebate really is still a huge chunk. There are other situations, though, where it would cost to convert a 2,300 square foot house to geothermal $80,000 after all the rebates and incentives, because it's got 4 air handlers and needs a bunch of insulation and ductwork modifications in order to make it happen. And so when we're saying, you should really reach out to a clean heat contractor and talk about your specifics, that's what we mean, because there are some winners and there are some, well, I don't want to call anyone a loser. None of you are losers, but some houses are better suited to an immediate retrofit for heat pumps than others, and some need Lexi's help a little bit more.
And there's different pathways, and I love that Patrick mentioned that. Is there's not one answer for everyone, as much as we wish we could just say this is the answer for everyone. It's not, and I know there's some questions about tax incentives and things like that. And these things you can redip year over year. So I'm well aware that we have some customers that reach out to us to get the insulation work done and air sealing work done so they can maybe do their geothermal system the next year with a slightly smaller system because they got their house much tighter. And again, someone in that situation isn't going to necessarily align with the same answer as someone who's in a no heat situation who needs an HVAC system right now, who may not have that leisure. So it's like, as much as Patrick and I don't want to sound like we're just putting you in circles and say, you're special. It's we think you're all very special and unique, and there's no one answer for you. And you kind of need a custom solution to what your situation is and how you use your home and the current state your home is in.
Nice. Thanks, you guys. So Patrick, we want to talk about decommissioning and why, someone's not going to keep their other system.
Yeah. So I don't know what the specific question might have been here, but I know that in order to obtain the rebates that we were talking about before for both air source and ground source heat pumps, you must decommission your existing fossil fuel based heating system. For some people, that will just be your furnace, right? So your forced air furnace that connects directly to your ductwork, you take that out of commission and that qualifies. Many people have a boiler which produces their space heating and in many cases their domestic hot water. And that boiler, anything that's used for space heating that's fossil fuel based must be decommissioned in order to obtain these rebates. And so we sort of talk a little bit in our consultations with people about, what type of equipment they've got and what it means to decommission that equipment for them particularly. Sometimes it's very easy. It's just swap your equipment for our equipment and that's it. You're decommissioned. Sometimes it's, we have to, get 5 guys down into your basement to drag your 425-pound cast iron boiler out and get rid of your 2 existing oil tanks along with it while we're down there. So truly, I think everyone's picking up on the theme here. Every house is unique and every property requires something specific, but decommissioning of the existing space heating system is what's required here in order to qualify for these rebates.
Okay, great. Are there issues with radon when you install geothermal heat?
No is the short answer, but the reason is, radon enters your house through the ground, and we're not actually putting anything from the ground inside of your house, believe it or not. We're circulating a fluid between the house and the ground, but all of our drilling and excavating and anything that's going to actually disturb the ground and cause a release of radon if it applied is going to take place well outside of the footprint of the property. Of the house. And so no known concerns associated with added radon from installing geothermal systems.
Another question, are all of the rebates incentives generally cumulative? Are there any exceptions? Maybe let's talk about it for insulation first.
Yeah, sure. We can talk about it for insulation. So in terms of, there's different categories in HVAC and equipment. So heating and cooling equipment like air source heat pumps and heat pump water heaters is one category. And then basically weatherization measures, as they may call them, insulation is a separate. And each year for the federal tax incentives, they do renew. So like I mentioned, I have a customer who might have done attic insulation work in 2023, and in 2024, they can reach back out to me and do exterior wall insulation work, and then they can kind of get that tax incentive again for that each separate year. In terms of the state programs, it is kind of like a one dip. So the Comfort Home program, if you take advantage of the incentives there, it's like you took advantage of them, and that's kind of that. And the same thing, Con Edison does, the Con Edison residential weatherization program is the same thing, where once you take advantage of the incentive through that program, it's kind of a one and done thing. But the insulation and weatherization measures tax incentive is by the year. That makes sense.
Yep, well said. Okay, let's go to geothermal. Are the rebates and incentives generally cumulative?
Yeah, so the geothermal rebate is really special for across the board, right? Not only the Con Ed or NYSEG rebate, which applies whichever is your respective concern, but also the state tax credit, which only applies to geothermal, and the federal 30% investment tax credit, which has a whole separate section for geothermal. So you can claim your 30% geothermal tax credit from the federal government, in addition to up to $2,000 on these other products and considerations, right? So, yeah, it's a great spot for us to be in, but it's really because these things are complementary and not, opposed to one another, right? You need insulation and geothermal. It's not either or, right?
Yep. So back to the insulation question, like Daniel just mentioned in the comment, he did closed cell insulation this year. Is that eligible for the rebate? Yes, that's up to 30% of the cost, up to $1,200. So great. We talked about geo insulation, and the air source heat pump is very similar as well. You can combine the tax credits from the state and the Con Ed or the NYSEG credits or incentives as well. So what else do we have? I think we reached the end. Oh, no, Karma's giving me another question. Someone says we don't have forced air ducts. What would be your suggestion if we'd like to move towards geothermal? That's a good question.
I was just typing up a response to that.
Okay.
So I'll just read it. Yeah, no, you wouldn't need to put ducts in order to install geothermal, to be very clear. But in order to install a dandelion geothermal system, you would need to have forced air ducts. There are other types of geothermal systems out there that we don't install that involve radiant delivery or other solutions. They're relatively less common because the forced air version does heating and cooling, and any other version is just going to do heat, which is why we only focus on the one type. But, we would definitely need regular, good old-fashioned forced air ducts to be installed if they're not already, if you want to consider a dandelion geothermal system. And if not, if you can't or don't want to put in ductwork, well, that's a perfectly valid reason to consider ductless air source heat pumps, right? Not every home is a good fit for ductwork, just like not every home is a good fit for geothermal, just like not every home is a good fit for air source heat pumps, and so on and so forth. But that is definitely one of the determining factors in today's practical market here in Westchester in determining whether you're going to go with an air source heat pump or a ground source heat pump.
Okay, great. All right, Wendy has a question about heat pump water heaters. Will they work in a home with steam heat? That's a good question.
Yes, but your steam heat is separate from your domestic hot water, right? So your steam heat is produced from a boiler, and that system would be totally separate and unaffected by your heat pump water heater, which only produces your domestic hot water. I wanted to answer this question, not because I sell heat pump water heaters, but because I really like mine. And I believe that this is one of the low-hanging fruits out there in terms of energy efficiency and immediate savings. I switched my electric water heater to a heat pump water heater 3 years ago, and I've already saved enough that it paid for the system in my hot water costs. So every situation obviously is unique, but to an earlier question in here, heat pump water heaters are not a good fit, just like everything else, for every single situation, every single environment. Heat pump water heaters, effectively the way that they work is they source heat from the environment where they're installed. So that's typically going to be in your basement or your utility space or your garage, if you're me. And if you don't have enough room in your utility space for this heat pump water heater to breathe, then you can choke it out and make it ineffective and inefficient, and that sort of defeats the whole purpose. So if you have a tiny little closet that your water heater is in, that may not be as good of a fit for a heat pump water heater as if you have a big open unfinished basement or if your water heater is in the garage.
Yeah, a lot of heat pump water heaters actually require a decent amount of space for them to be under warranty and things like that. So like Patrick said, if there is a closet, there are sometimes ways to work around it. We've had customers who do have it in a closet, and we actually end up charging a little more and install some ductwork so it can be vented properly and gets a proper amount of airflow. But for the most part, you do want to make sure it's in like a pretty large space. I also installed a heat pump water heater when I decommissioned my system this past spring. I wish I could say I was excited as Patrick is, but I will say the savings are there. The math adds up. It's working. So
Lexi, I'm excited enough for both of us. It's okay.
I know it's true. It's true. I'm recording you and play it in my head.
Oh, great. This was really wonderful. And I want to say thanks to all the participants for their awesome questions. We had a great dialogue tonight, and big appreciations to the speakers, Patrick, Pablo, Lexi, and Carmelina doing tech in the background. Liam, thanks for sharing your story. Much appreciation to the office of Amy Paulin and to Assembly Member Amy Paulin also for joining. So thank you so much, everyone. We will be in touch. We'll send out an email with all the resources, and feel free to call us tomorrow morning if you are feeling very motivated. We'll be here to help. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Bye.